Good evening, everybody. My name is Rich Foreman, and as Wayne was saying, this is the first of a series. Wayne and I were talking like at Christmas at the Carlson Center, and this is what came up. We're doing a AI for Business workshop. It's a series of 10 at this point, and this is the first. Come on, advance. And it does take quite a lot to put this together. You can't believe the expenses. Not only the pizza, there's insurance, name tags, there's all these little things that come up. And you guys, it's a free ticket. We thank the Roseville Venture Lab. And actually, I also like that there was a donation button on the ticket. So also I'd like to acknowledge Shauna, Rachel, Catherine, Sandra, and Steve for helping us put this together. So thank you for your donations for putting this together. And our goals of this workshop is one is to provide the non-techie business owners the ability to use AI, and so that they actually will use AI to actually increase their productivity. And in a greater sense, also to foster this entrepreneurial community. And I actually find that, this part here where I'm presenting to you, that's one part of it. But I actually think the magic is when you guys are getting pizza and you start sharing ideas and forming interesting things. That's really where the magic occurs. And I've seen lots of startups occur when people are grabbing the same piece of pizza. So a little bit about myself. First and foremost, I'm a dad. I have two children. I have a daughter that's 20 and my son that's 17. And I like to describe myself as a serial entrepreneur. So I've had one successful exit and several exits that weren't successful. Right now I'm doing something totally different. That's not even AI related. I'm working on a healthcare startup. And I'm very active in the startup community. As you see these logos here, I'm part of Startup Folsom, 1 Million Cups, Startup SAC, MedStarts, Startup Rhine, and you could actually see that I have a hard time saying no. I've been in tech for over 30 years, and my first job out of college was I was a naval officer, so I had an ROTC scholarship. So I served 4 years in the Navy. So before we start, I just want to get a pulse of where we are here. How many of you guys are like business owners? All right. And how many are like new to AI? Okay, that's good. And how many are what considered kind of either moderate or advanced in AI? Okay. So for this class, I just want to be warning you, it's really geared more for the beginners, but I'm hoping some of you, the expert or moderate users, actually find a few nuggets from this. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm just going to talk what is AI, and I'm going to go over about some of the dangers of AI, which you've probably all heard, and then I'm going to do a comparisons of the main large language models, and then I'll go deeper into some of the business uses, the business cases of it. And then I think what you'll find useful is the prompt frameworks. I'm going to actually go over two different types of frameworks. And at the end, I just want to have the opportunity for you guys to give feedback. You'll have a QR code, and you could just give us your feedback. So, what is AI? And the definition that we have here, it's a software that actually learns from patterns and actually generates outputs. And AI has been around for a while. I mean, we've been, whenever you were shopping on Amazon and you have the recommended items, or if you're going on Netflix and you see these recommended movies, that's all AI. But what's really changed in the last few years is large language models, specifically when ChatGPT came in. And when ChatGPT came out, who started using it when it first came out? Yeah. And I have to say, I was like, wow, it was like magic when it first came out. And since I've adopted AI, I think I'm about 3 times more productive than before AI. So, and then you can kind of see where the value is coming from. And if I had to define what a large language model is, it's basically the same thing, but it's training from a large data set. Then that data set essentially is the internet. So it's scraping the internet for all this data, and it could generate really useful items like content and even video and images. But it still needs supervision. Like, you've probably seen some, outputs that were kind of out there. So, and I'll go over examples of people, basically published AI without really looking at it. And just, it does seem like magic, but, when you see autocomplete, when you type in something, that's actually kind of what large language models do, but on steroids. When you put in T, you get it. So I just want to show it may seem like magic, but the origin stems from something like autocomplete. So let's talk about the dangers of AI. And I'm sure you've heard of hallucinations, and that's where it actually gives you answers, and the answers are confident. Like this is the answer, but it's totally wrong. And a famous example is this is Steve Schwartz. He's a lawyer that's 30 years a lawyer. He actually submitted a court case using ChatGPT, and it drove the judge like crazy because the judge was going through his court case. It was referencing case studies that didn't exist. The judge was so pissed that he actually brought this lawyer in court, had him testify under oath that he actually had ChatGPT generate the court case, and that he didn't review it, and then he fined him $5,000. And you think this would be a lesson, but this is still happening with lawyers to this day. So they're using AI and they're not checking their work. So when you input, so there's talk about leaking sensitive data. So when you put information into a large language model, when you put it into ChatGPT, it's training the model. So if you're putting information like your social security number, your salaries, that's getting captured somewhere. And what that occurred, so there's some issues here. So an example is when Samsung, they were finding their engineers were actually using ChatGPT to help code, to maybe debug stuff. They basically are sending all their proprietary information out into ChatGPT's database, and there's no way to pull it back. And so, that's an instance where Samsung actually stopped it. Last year, ChatGPT had this feature where you could share, like if you had a thread and you wanted to share the results of the thread with a friend, what happened was those threads were becoming discoverable on like a search engine. So if you put personal information on that thread, that personal information was discoverable. So that's an example where we have this like information leak. Mm-hmm. So there's potential IP issues. So the content, again, it's the training models of all the information from the internet. So some of the content can actually be from data that's already owned by someone, that's owned by someone else. And potentially, if you actually use AI to generate content, you don't actually have ownership. You don't have guaranteed ownership of that IP. So there is an instance where a person actually created a comic book using, in this case, it was Midjourney, and he submitted for copyright. And when the Copyright Office found out he used AI, what they did was they actually revoked the copyright for the image because a human being didn't actually create that image. It was a machine, but they let him keep the text and the layout of the text and the image. They let him keep that as a copyright. So there's a lot of IP issues when AI is actually used. And there's bias. So, the data, the output is only as good as the data it receives. So there's inherent bias in the data. And this is an example. I actually, for this exercise here, I actually had ChatGPT and I asked it, make a picture of a doctor, make a picture of a nurse, make a picture of an engineer, make a picture of a teacher. And you can see the bias there. One is they're all really good looking white people and the same actor apparently, but you see it actually goes into the same stereotype. So just be aware that when the outputs, can be very biased. So this is where you actually have to look at it, and if you're seeing output that's sort of biased, you want to maybe refine the prompt to sort of make it even it out. And there's definitely brand damage, so there's brand damage if you are, putting out content that's hallucinated or in some cases tone deaf. You've probably seen that. And then, I think it's actually okay to use like generative. I think in general, when we see an ad, you can kind of tell that if they use AI to generate it. And I think that's okay, but it's maybe stands out because it doesn't fit their brand of like the colors or the branding voice. So you have to be cognizant of that. I had mentioned the privacy slip-ups and the potential IP risk. And this is an example. This happened last summer. It was the Chicago Sun-Times. They actually produced a reading list, and a couple of those books don't exist. So you can see the kind of brand damage that occurred because of someone just didn't bother. They used AI and didn't bother to check it. And this is probably something you don't think of, but there's a term called deskilling. And I felt like I'm a pretty good writer, but I actually use AI a lot to write, I actually use it to write content, blogs and such. And actually, I find that maybe my writing skills have decreased, but I'm actually becoming a much better editor. And here's an interesting case. So there was a study where there was some gastroenterologists. So these are doctors that work on the stomach. And, you guys know what a colonoscopy is? I've had to have one myself. It's not fun. But they were using an AI device for the colonoscopy to help identify tumors. And it worked great. These gastroenterologists were finding that the AI worked really well with identifying tumors. And so after the study was done, they took away the device. And these gastroenterologists, which were veterans that had 10 years experience, found that their skills dramatically decreased. So when you become, you could actually become over dependent on AI, and your core skills actually decrease. So let's take a look at different large language models, and I'm going to basically compare. So there's four major ones. The big one is ChatGPT. That's the first one. There's Claude, Grok, and Gemini. There's actually thousands of LLMs, but I'm just going to cover the four main ones. And ChatGPT is the first one that came out. It's created by OpenAI, and I can call it the Swiss Army knife. And it's kind of the best all-around product. It can do image generation, data analysis. It can also I actually use it a lot for research. And you could actually copy and paste images in there and understand what that image is. But it will also hallucinate confidently. Claude, that's a product developed by Anthropic. Overall, it's probably the best writer of these four LLMs. So if you do a lot of writing, that's probably the one you want to use. But it has no image generation. It has no data analysis. It can research. And if you copy and paste images in there, it actually can understand what it is. Again, like all of them, they will hallucinate. Gemini, it's a product created by Google. So understandably, it actually has really the best integration with Google Suite. So if you're a Google user, this is probably something you want to look at. It has image generation, data analysis, and because it's part of the Google search engine, strong research capabilities. It can understand images, and like all of them else, it can hallucinate. So Grok is actually created by the Elon Musk, so it's X, or in this case, XA. It does real-time data. It's really good at getting real-time data. Does image generation. There's no data analysis. It's excellent at real-time research, and it can understand images. So it has. And one of the issues of Grok is there's almost no safeguards on the image generation. So there's a lot of pornography that's actually generated by Grok. So just be aware of that. And so my recommendation, if you're looking at tools, is just pick one and know it really well. And if you find yourself using a tool a lot for your business, go ahead and pay the $20 a month. So when I was using, when ChatGPT first came out, I don't know if you remember, but it would spin a lot. Like there was times when it would just spin. And but I was finding I was actually kind of getting dependent. As soon as they had a paid version, I pulled out my credit card and paid it. So if you find, the value is there, so it's worth that $20 a month if you find that you're using it quite a bit. So let's go into some of the business uses. And I'm just doing a quick survey. So some of you business owners here that are using AI, just word out what you kind of use it for. You know, content creation, website content. What was that? Agreements, legal documents. That's a great one. Research, very good one. What was that? Law partnering. Brainstorming. Oh, brainstorming. Okay, got it. That's a good one. That's excellent.
I actually use it for coding.
For what?
Software.
Oh, sorry. So you're doing vibe coding. Okay, so I actually do cover a lot of this, and I'm just going to go maybe a little into some of the stuff you can do. On a creative side, I actually create a lot of copy. So we hear content here. I actually use AI to actually create both social media and blogs, lots of blogs. And then I've actually created like video scripts. I'll make videos, and I'll have ChatGPT create the video script for me. And it's like having that graphic artist. It's not great, but it's okay. And so for images, I actually will use a combination of AI generated image and stock photos. Customer service, it could be used to draft emails. I write like an engineer. So if there's something sensitive, I'll actually throw it into ChatGPT and say, polish this. I've seen it used as a sales coach, so you could actually get into a conversation and have it like if you're trying to get into a coaching situation, you could act as a customer, and then you could try to do it. There's actually a couple of startups where that's their whole business model, where they help sales reps. It actually gets into audio where you actually have like these mock conversations with an AI like a customer. In administration, I love to create agendas. And full disclosure, I actually help use AI to help create this presentation here. If you have a big project, you can use it to help break down the different tasks. And I actually love how Zoom has the note-taking feature. So my philosophy, if you have a meeting and you don't take notes, there was no reason to have that meeting. So right back in the day, every time we'd have a meeting, I'd spend like 20 minutes after the meeting writing the notes and emailing it out. And now this is done automatically. What's that? The previous slide. Grade logs. Yeah, I don't know what that is. AI. That's the lawyer in the group. So research, it actually does a great job of research. So, back in the day, like 4 years ago, if you wanted to do research, it was Google. But now, if I don't know a subject, I actually will just go into ChatGPT and I'll ask a question. It'll tell me about X, Y, Z, and it's a lot better than going doing a Google search and having to sift through the different websites. Although now Google has its own AI tool as itself. But you could do like competitor summaries, data analysis. Actually, you could take with the data analysis feature, you could take like a spreadsheet, or you could take a contract, upload it, and have the LLM actually summarize it for you. Or what I do is if I have a contract, I will upload the contract and ask what are some red flags in this. And then I've actually used if you're in startup world, you could actually have the AI act as a product manager and create a product PRD, which is a product requirements document. So you can actually use it for DevOps, and I think you mentioned you use it vibe coding. So I actually have friends that don't know how to code, and they will vibe code. And essentially, it's a great way to create a minimum viable product, your first product. I've talked to actual developers who vibe code, and so what they find is that they are 3 times more productive instead of if they're just trying to do it on their own. I think the issue is that if you are not a coder and you're trying to vibe code, if you encounter serious problems and you don't know really how to code, you can't figure out how to solve that problem. So I think it's okay for non-coders if you're just trying to create something, but eventually it has to be hardened. It has to be reviewed by a developer and hardened. And actually, what I've also talked about is if you creating code, it's actually fantastic at finding bugs. You put it in there, and it'll find the bugs for you. HR. So it's actually, a great trainer. So like I said earlier, if you don't know about something, it could actually it could actually help you create training materials. Like, again, I use AI to help create this presentation. Things like if you had to create a job description, it's actually really great. You put in some bullets and it actually generates a job description. And it's actually, if you wanted to have someone that's an HR expert on your team and you don't have an HR person, you could actually put in the situation and it'll kind of give you some advice. And they always caveat, you really need to talk to a lawyer, but at least it gives you an idea. I just had a friend that was in an HR situation with her company, and she put in all the information, the facts about it, and it actually gave her some really great advice. And one of the advice was actually go see a lawyer. So, and legal. So my apologies to a lawyer friend in here, but I hate lawyers. The last startup we had to have one of their founders had to quit because she couldn't commit the time, and just to get her the letter to that sort of solved everything cost like $1,500. So now I will actually use ChatGPT to review my contracts, and usually the prompt is something like review this document and identify any red flags. And I will use it to, create simple documents like an NDA or like what's it called, like a 1099 contract. But again, it'll always remind you if it's anything really like important, you do need to see a lawyer. But maybe you don't have to see as much of the lawyer. So I think this is the part where hopefully you guys will get something out of here. And I'm going to actually go over two frameworks that you can use to actually generate better prompt. Oh, hey, here's my friend tonight. To generate better prompts. One's I call it the Create Plus, and the other one is actually called the Socratic method. So the Create framework, and you can see it's an acronym. It spells out C stands for context, R is role, E is the expectation, A is the audience, T is the task, E is for example, and the plus is just going to ask you for 3 follow-up questions if it feels like it's not understanding. And by the way, I'm going to send you a QR code where you could download you could actually download the prompt, so you don't have to. Well, I see people taking pictures, but you'll have access to it. So I'm going to actually do an exercise. I'm going to say create a marketing plan for the Roseville Venture Lab here. So C, context, provide background or situation details. So, what I did was I got bullets. It's a description of the Roseville Venture Lab. This here is a co-working area, and they have, it's between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. There's a few programs they have, like they have Roseville Rising. And then to add it, for more information, I actually have the URL to the Roseville Venture Lab, and I included that in the context. Role, in this case, I'm asking the AI to be a fractional CMO so that it's acting as a chief marketing officer. And there's actually been studies that show that, at first when I saw this, I thought it's kind of stupid. But there's studies where if you tell the AI to act as a certain role, it actually performs better. E is the expectation. So I have two. There's E is for expectation. There's T later on that you see is for task. And E, and in some ways it should kind of be backward the other way around, but it would spell out a different word. So E is like what you want the results to be. So in this case, it's a 90-day plan, and you want it to increase attendance. You want more signups. You want more drop-ins in the co-working, and you want it to feed the top of the tunnel. And we have a small team, so it's something that a small team can be used. So this is the expectation of what the results would be. A is the audience, so that's who is it for? In this case, it's going to be founders, early stage startups, small business, and then it comes as secondary. We have partners, sponsors, and mentors. So that the audience is actually very important. And then T, so this is what the tasks are. So I wanted to create a marketing plan with goals and messaging and channel plan. And I have a budget of 20K. I want a 90-day calendar and a simple way to measure the results. And E is an example. So the examples, initially it's less like you say, in this case you're saying it should be tactical, it needs to have this, not vague. But I actually find that if you give it an actual example, like if you had a marketing plan that you like the format, you should upload that and say, reference the marketing plan as an example. I find that if you give it an actual example, it actually works really well. And then the plus is, if you go through all this and it still has questions, it's going to ask you more questions. So what I'm going to do here is exit out here, and I will send you. So I'm going to actually send you this link to this Word doc that you could download. So here is the prompt framework, and what I've done is I have the examples down here. And so what you do is you could basically, you could actually go to this document and answer each question, and then literally just copy and paste the entire section, like that. And you can go back into your, and I actually already did it here because it takes like, it takes some time. So I already did it. And it's the 90-day marketing plan here. And so if I go to the very top, you can see that I literally pasted everything from that word sheet, and you can just paste it in there. So this is your template. You paste it in there, and it actually will go through and answer. It actually does, I'm going to go a little slow, but it does create a marketing plan, and it goes all the way down here, and then it starts asking questions at the very end. Let's see. So here it says it wanted to know more information. It asked questions more about the program Roseville Rising, and if there was an adult version of it. And then it also asks, when is the other question it's going to have? It's going to ask a question about like, when is the application process? And then finally it asks more questions. So you can see how this really, it's a better prompt instead of like saying, create me a marketing plan. It gives you a framework to actually add more details. So there's another method of working with an AI, and it's called Socratic prompting. So if you guys remember from, if you ever took Greek studies, it's Socrates actually, the way he would teach, he would ask people questions. And so just say like I wanted to create a marketing plan. Well, so the prompting here, and the way this works is the AI will ask you a question, you answer it, it'll confirm your response, and then I'll ask another question. That's sort of the methodology here. But if I'm like I'm more of an engineer, and I've kind of had to learn marketing, and if I wanted to use the Create Plus framework, I don't think I would know all the answers it's asking for. So what I can do is, in this case here, is I'm going to say, and this is the template you have here, and I'm going to go on to the next one. It's like, act as my fractional CMO, ask me one question at a time, summarize my response, stop when you have enough information, and then I want the output to be a 90-day marketing plan that's in a table. So that's the prompt. So going back to, so I'm literally just going back here. You can see the framework here, and you could like just copy and paste this prompt here. And actually, I actually added this here. So because I use ChatGPT a lot, it knows a lot about me. Plus I have, when I first tried this prompt out, it actually asked me stuff about my current businesses that I'm working on. So if you want to use like start off with a fresh slate, you could use new tasks, ignore prior context and personalization. That kind of gives you a fresh slate. So you can copy this, and then I have it here on this note. So you can see I pasted it up there. Oops, that's the wrong one. Let me go up one. And it pretty much asks me one question at a time. I have to go all the way back up. Oops, that's the wrong one. New task instruction. Oh, here it is. It's this one here. So you could do it in there. So it's actually a good way if you don't know what you don't know, and you go ahead and put in there, and so it just starts asking you questions. And you can see here, what are we marketing? Oops, and then it went all the way down. What are we marketing? And it just keeps asking you questions. And actually, one of my other projects, I have a friend that has a winery and he's going to start have weddings. So I used it for this case here. And, I started answering, answering the questions. And as I answered enough of it, it just starts generating, once it gets enough, it starts generating a marketing plan. And and actually, I was going through this, like, oh, there's a couple good ideas after I saw that. Oh, that's a pretty good. I should actually do that. So there's another way where you can have if you want to create something and you don't know all the inputs, you can have it ask you. And that's another way to go about it. All right, let me go back to full screen. And again, this is a tip. If you need to clear it off, you can use this prompt. New task, ignore prior context and personalization if you feel like you have to start with a fresh slate on a thread. So if you guys want to download the document, just scan this. It goes to my Google Drive, and you can download the document as a Word document.
So you mentioned all the large language models have hallucination, you can expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I personally, when I used it, I had an experience because I work with some kind of bookkeeper. And so when I did LLC formation and tried to create a guide for business owners, one of the things that they brought up was like, oh, hey, you didn't have to pay the $800 in wages, but that was during COVID. If I didn't know that, right, and caught that, then, that would have been gone. So just trying to get some idea, like, what kind of guardrail can we do in the prompt or anything like that, help flex some of those.
If something seems a little fishy, you could ask, cite your, the prompt you can say, cite your resource. I was actually watching this news story where this woman actually sued her insurance company, and she used both ChatGPT and Perplexity, and she would actually use in some words she would actually have Perplexity do a sanity check on what ChatGPT is. So that's one way to do it. Or if something seems suspicious, you could just have it cite the resource, and or you can just do a quick Google check, if that seems accurate. So it really does help if you know something about it and about whatever the subject is. But if you are like doing something where you have absolutely no knowledge, like that's why I would only use like simple things for legal stuff. Anything more extensive, you need to have a lawyer. Although I could see a future where, you're going to have lawyers that actually use some sort of LLM, and then they'll just, using their actual JD, they could actually do a sanity check to see what they've written. And they might actually, and I think there's some LLMs that actually have, guardrails that are more trained on legal documentation.
I was curious, are there any differences in the output of these styles or these particular use cases for one? So I don't think that overall.
I think it's just more experimentation. I mean, I only use the Create Plus if I feel like something. Most of the time, I'm kind of lazy, and I type enough information where I know it's going to be enough. Like I'll give it enough context. So I just think it just depends on the situation. If you're just trying to do something else, you don't actually have to use the form. If you're trying to create something that that's for your work, that's important. I want the frame itself. All right. So lastly, so this comes to the end. If you could scan this and this goes to a Google form, we'd love to have your input. So how useful was this? What types of other stuff are you looking for? Next month we're going to do a deeper dive into ChatGPT, but Wayne and I were talking about other things like we're thinking to have guests come in, and so I guess there's two types of guests that we could have. One would be something like there's numerous AI startups that have come, and I could invite these it's more techie, you have an AI startup and you can have the founders talk about their journey and their vision. The other one is if you want to have like a small business owner that's effectively used AI to the business. I know I have a friend that he's got a pull app, like it actually measures like like the pH of pool, and he's a one-person shop, but he has AI like managing his outbound and managing his email, and so he's using AI quite a bit, and he's just a one-person shop, and he's doing the work of like 5 people. So you could say, do I, which one you would like to see, or maybe we could have both come in. And finally, the next one, this goes to the Eventbrite. It's March 4th. It's here from 6 to 8. And it's going to be a deeper dive. I'm going to actually go into specifics of ChatGPT. I'll talk about the image generation, creating custom GPTs, and doing data analysis on it. And finally, this is my contact information. So if you want to email me, that QR code goes to my LinkedIn. That's my cell. If you have any follow-up questions, I'm happy to answer that. And with that, that ends tonight's presentation. And we have lots of pizza left, so please take some pizza home or just eat it. And again, the magic of an event like this is when you guys talk, and then 3 months later, you guys formed a $1 billion AI company or something. So that's very nice. So thank you guys all for attending tonight.